Rizal's travel to Europe all began in 1882. Rizal and his brother Paciano had the secret agreement that Rizal should go to Spain because 1. He will pursue his medical course and 2. He will observe the political situation in Madrid. Only a few people knew Rizal's trip to Spain. These are Paciano, Antonio Rivera, Chengoy, and the family of Orang. His former teacher in Ateneo gave him a letter of recommendation to the Jesuits' house in Barcelona in case he needed assistance. In his passport, his name was Jose Mercado and not Rizal. On May 1, 1882, Rizal left Calamba. He boarded a cruise on May 3, 1882, and 5 days after their cruiser, Singapore. From there, he rode another first-class cruise, Jama, going Sri Lanka, which then proceeded to North Africa to the Suez Canal, Port Said in Egypt to Naples, Italy, and finally to Marseille. When he reached Barcelona, Rizal had almost no money left. He only got 7 pesos. After some months, Rizal left Barcelona for Madrid. On September 16, 1882, Rizal met and befriended Consuelo Ortiga y Rey, the prettiest of the daughters of Don Pablo Ortiga y Rey, the Spanish liberal and former mayor of Manila, who became vice president of the Council of the Philippines in the Ministry of Colonies. Consuelo suggested in her diary entry that on the first day she met Rizal, they talked the whole night and that the young Filipino said many beautiful things about her. In February 3, 1886, he left Paris for Heidelberg, Germany. He attended lectures and training at the University of Heidelberg, where he was said to have completed his eye specialization. Afterward, Rizal settled for 3 months in the nearby village Wilhelmsfled at the pastoral house of a Protestant pastor, Dr. Karl Ulmer. It was during this time that the correspondence and long-distance friendship between Jose and Ferdinand Blumentritt began. Rizal wrote a letter in German and sent it with a bilingual book, Arithmetica, to Blumentritt, who was interested in studying Jose's native language. On February 21, 1887, he finished his first novel, The Noli, and it came off the press a month later. With his friend Maximo Viola, who loaned him 300 pesos to cover for the printing of the Noli. After the publication of Noli, Rizal planned to visit the important places in Europe. Rizal received Paciano's remittance of 1,000 pesos, which forwarded by 1 Luna from Paris, and immediately paid his debt to Viola, which he loaned so that the Noli could be printed. Rizal spent his leisure time reading and writing at his boarding house, attending the reunions of Filipino students at the house of the Paterno brothers, and practicing fencing and shooting at the gymnasium. At the dawn of May 11, 1887, Rizal and Viola, 2 brown-skinned doctors on a roaming spree, left Berlin by train. Spring was an ideal season for travel. Their destination was in Dresden, one of the best cities in Germany. Rizal and Viola tarried for some time in Dresden. They visited Dr. Adolf B. Mayer, who was overjoyed to see them. In the Museum of Art, Rizal was deeply impressed by painting of Prometheus Bound. They also met Dr. Jagor and heard their plan about limit trips in order to see Blumentritt. He advised to wire Blumentritt because the old professor might be shocked of their visit. First meeting with Blumentritt. At 1:30 p.m. of May 15, 1887, the train arrived at the railroad station of Plymouth. Professor Blumentritt was at the station carrying a pencil sketch of Rizal, which he sent to identify his friend. Blumentritt get a room at Hotel Krebs, after which he brought them to his house and stayed Les Maîtresses May 13 to 14, 1887. They enjoyed the hospitality of Blumentritt family. The professor's wife, Rosa, was a good cook. She prepared Austrian dishes, which Rizal liked very much. Blumentritt proved to be a great tourist as well as hospitable host. Rizal and Viola visited the historic city of Prague. They carried letters of recommendation from Blumentritt to Dr. Wilk. Rizal and Viola visited the tomb of Copernicus. May 20, they arrived at Vienna, capital of Austria-Hungary. They met Nordenfels, one of the greatest novelists in that time. They stayed at Hotel Metropole. They also meet two good friends of Blumentritt, Massner and Nordmann, Austrian scholars. May 24, Rizal and Viola left Vienna on a riverboat to see beautiful sights of the Danube River. As they traveled along the famous river, Rizal observed keenly the river voyage ended in Linz. They traveled overland to Salzburg, and from there to Munich, where they sojourned for a short time to savor the famous Munich beer. They stayed from June 2 to 3, 1887 and continued to tour Basel, Halle, Bern, and Lausanne. Rizal and Viola left Lausanne in a little boat crossing the foggy Lemon Lake to Geneva. On June 19, 1887, his 26th birthday, Rizal treated Viola to a blowout. Rizal and Viola spent 15 days in Geneva. On June 23, they parted ways. Viola decided to return to Barcelona while Rizal continued his tour to Italy. Rizal received sad news from his friends in Madrid of the deplorable conditions of the primitive Igorots who were exhibited in this exposition. Some of these Igorots died. Rizal was outraged by the degradation of his fellow countrymen. He visited Turin, Milan, Venice, and Florence. On June 27, 1887, he reached Rome. On June 29th, Rizal visited for the first time the Vatican, the city of the popes and the capital of Christendom. After a week of staying in Rome, he prepared to return to the Philippines. He had already written to his father that he was coming home. The winter of 1886 in Berlin was his darkest winter. He lived in poverty because no money arrived from Calamba and he was flat broke. He could not pay his landlord and he was eating only one meal a day. His clothes were old and threadbare. His health broke down due to lack of proper nourishment. This is one of the most memorable days in the life of Rizal.